There is a particular kind of autumn afternoon that arrives gilded and gentle, the light low and golden, the leaves turning loose from their branches in slow, unhurried spirals, as though even the trees understood that some things should not be rushed. It was on an afternoon exactly like that one, a Saturday in mid-October, the park along Willow Pond Drive scattered with fallen leaves the color of amber and rust, that a woman named Vanessa Croft sat alone on a black iron bench near the water, holding a cup of coffee that had long since gone cold, watching the light move through the trees and thinking, as she often did on weekends, about absolutely nothing in particular, which was precisely the point. She had not expected, on that particular bench, on that particular afternoon, to be approached by an 8-year-old boy holding a single folded piece of paper, walking toward her with the careful, deliberate steps of someone who has rehearsed something important and is determined not to lose his nerve before delivering it. The boy's name was Charlie Hartwell. He had sandy brown hair, slightly mussed from an afternoon of running around the park, and he wore a blue zip-up hoodie that had clearly been chosen by someone who understood that October afternoons could turn cold quickly once the sun dropped behind the tree line. He stopped a few feet from the bench and held out the folded paper toward Vanessa with both hands, the particular formal seriousness of a child handing over something he considers official. "Excuse me," he said. "Can you read this, please?" Vanessa, startled out of her quiet afternoon thoughts, looked at the boy, then at the paper, then past him toward the path, where she could see a man, presumably the boy's father, walking quickly toward them, a brown paper bag in one hand, his expression carrying the particular urgent embarrassment of a parent who has just realized, a few seconds too late, exactly what his child is doing. "Of course," Vanessa said carefully, taking the paper. She unfolded it. The handwriting was a child's careful printing, slightly uneven, clearly composed with effort and revision. Dear lady. My name is Charlie. My mom died 2 years ago. I am looking for someone to be my mommy for one day, this Saturday, October the 18th. You do not have to keep doing it after. Just one day. My dad is sad a lot even though he tries to hide it, and I think it would help if we had a nice day with a mom in it again. You seem nice. Would you please consider it? Thank you. Charlie Hartwell, age 8, Vanessa read the note twice. She felt something move through her chest that she did not immediately have words for, not quite sadness, not quite tenderness, but some complicated combination of both, the particular ache that comes from being handed, without warning, a piece of someone else's private grief. Before she could respond, the man arrived, slightly out of breath, his face flushed with the particular mortification that comes from watching your child do something you had absolutely no time to prevent. "I am so sorry," he said quickly, reaching for Charlie's shoulder. "Charlie, you can't just, we've talked about this, buddy, you can't hand notes to strangers in the park." "I wasn't being weird about it," Charlie said, with the wounded dignity of a child defending a plan he believed in completely. "I was being polite. I said please and thank you. That's not the issue, bud." Vanessa, still holding the note, looked up at the man, tall, dark-haired, dressed simply in a charcoal sweater and jeans, holding a paper bag that smelled, she now noticed, like fresh bread from the bakery near the park entrance, and saw, beneath the embarrassment, something else entirely. Exhaustion. The particular bone-deep tiredness of a person who has been carrying something heavy for a long time and has very little energy left over for damage control. "You don't need to apologize," she said gently. "I think I understand what happened here." The man whose name, Vanessa would learn moments later, was Daniel Hartwell sat down on the opposite end of the bench, not quite invited but not quite uninvited either, and put his face briefly in his free hand. "I am so sorry," he said again, quieter this time. "He's been planning this for 2 weeks. I had no idea until I saw him walking up to you with that paper. I would have stopped him if I'd known." "Dad," Charlie said, climbing onto the bench between them, entirely unbothered by the adult tension surrounding him, "you say sorry a lot. Mom used to say you apologize for things that aren't even your fault." Daniel let out a breath that was half laugh, half something closer to a wince. "She did used to say that," he admitted, mostly to himself. Vanessa looked between the two of them, the boy completely at ease, having delivered his note and apparently considering his job mostly finished, and the father, visibly trying to hold together composure in front of a stranger who had just been handed evidence of exactly how much grief still lived in their small household. "Can I ask," Vanessa said carefully, "how long it's been since you lost her?" 2 years, Daniel said. "This past summer. She was sick for a while before that. Charlie was 6 when she passed." "I'm very sorry," Vanessa said, and meant it simply, without performance. Charlie, who had been listening to this exchange with the particular patience children develop around grief conversations they have already had many times before, decided the adults had spent enough time on pleasantries. "So will you do it?" he asked Vanessa directly. "Be mommy for a day? It doesn't have to be anything big. We were just going to get ice cream and maybe go to the little train that goes around the park. Dad already bought bread for sandwiches." "Charlie," Daniel said, color rising in his face again. "That's not, you can't ask a complete stranger to." "Why not?" Charlie said. "She seems nice. And she was sitting alone, which means she probably doesn't have anything else to do today." Vanessa, despite the genuine ache the note had stirred in her, found herself laughing a real laugh, surprised and warm. "That's an excellent piece of detective work," she said. "I am, in fact, sitting here alone with absolutely nothing else to do today." "See," Charlie said to his father, with the particular satisfaction of a child whose hypothesis has just been confirmed. Daniel looked at Vanessa with an expression that mixed apology, exhaustion, and something like helpless honesty. "I should explain," he said. "He's been doing this. Not exactly this is new, the actual written note is new, but he's been looking for the past several months. Bringing up other moms at school pickup, asking if our neighbor wants to come to dinner, that sort of thing. His therapist says it's a normal part of how kids process loss at his age, that he's trying to fill a specific shape that he understands is missing, and that I shouldn't panic about it, but it's—" He stopped, exhaling slowly. "It's hard to watch. Every time he does it, I feel like I'm failing to give him